Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Svaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashikam Vitam Sya Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanachana Shalakaya Shakshurunmilitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurakam Garganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Vedanipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chilanshitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyambunim Shri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Bandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shridaram Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurata Vishe Namah. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagawat, Vrindaban Das Thakur. This is what the translations of the Bengali devotee Sarvabhavana Prabhu. Okay. So this is Madhya-khanda, Chapter 1. Sri Mahaprabhu starts the Sankirtan movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts the Sankirtan movement. And this is after Mahaprabhu has returned from Gaya, and he's taken initiation from Sri Ishwara Puri. And now, before he went to Gaya, he was showing himself as a great scholar, the famous Nimai Pandit. But now, after returning from Gaya, he is showing deep absorption in Krishna Prem. He is constantly in ecstasy and chanting the holy names. And here, we're also going to be hearing how his way of teaching his students was different also. So, early every morning, all Mahaprabhu's students would assemble for their studies. However, when he, who was the master of the three worlds, sat and began to lecture, nothing but Krishna would appear upon his tongue. The students asked, "What is the correct and perfect understanding of the alphabet?" The Lord replied, "Lord Narayana is situated in all the letters of the alphabet." The students asked, "How were the letters of the alphabet perfected?" The Lord replied, "The merciful glance of Lord Krishna created the alphabet." The students responded, "O Pandit, please give the correct understanding." The Lord said, "At every moment one should remember Lord Krishna. I am describing the worship of Lord Krishna, which is the purpose of all the scriptures. In their beginning, middle, and end, the scriptures only teach the worship of Lord Krishna." Upon hearing the Lord's explanation, the students began to laugh. One murmured, "The cause of this strange explanation is an imbalance of the life errors." The students again asked, "From where did you get this idea?" The Lord replied, "This is the ultimate conclusion of Scripture." The Lord said, "If you cannot now understand, then contemplate the matter, and this afternoon I will explain in more detail. Each student should go to a secluded place and study his books. In the afternoon we will meet again." Upon hearing the Lord's words, the surprised students tied up their books and left. All the students then went to Gangadas and related the words and explanations of the Lord. They said, "Nimai Pandit now declares that all words of the scripture refer to Lord Krishna and gives nothing else as an explanation. He continuously chants the name of Lord Krishna, feeling great ecstasy. Sometimes he laughs aloud, sometimes roars aloud, and sometimes his whole body breaks out into horripilation. In this way, different symptoms manifest within him. When he sits down to teach, he connects the root of every single word to Krishna. All his purports and commentaries describe Krishna. This new transformation in him seems to be so alien to us. Please, O Master, please tell us what should we do? Gangadas Pandit, the jewel-like teacher of Navadip, smiled, and after listening to the complaints of the students, told them, "Go home now and return this afternoon. I will instruct Nimai. I will see that he tutors all of you properly from now on. You may also come with Nimai. Be here with your books this afternoon." Later that afternoon, the Lord visited Gangadas Pandit and touched his master's feet with respect. In turn, Gangadas Pandit blessed him, saying, "May you become highly learned." He then continued, "My dear Vishwambar, I must tell you something. You know that it is no small matter for a Brahmin to be able to teach. It is a question of good fortune. Your grandfather is none other than Sri Nilambar Chakravarti, and your father is Sri Jagannath Mishra. Both are great scholars. Neither of your parents' families is illiterate, and you yourself are a very able scholar with an exceptional faculty to give commentary. Would you say that one achieves the path of devotion to the Lord by giving up his education and learning? In that case, are not your parents devotees of the Lord? You should learn and study properly, for only through proper education and learning can one become a Vaishnava Brahmin. How can an illiterate Brahmin develop the faculty for discriminating between good and bad, proper and improper? Knowing this, you should chant Krishna's name and continue your education. Go teach the scriptures in the proper way with the proper explanations, and do not try to misconstrue the meanings. It brings me tremendous anxiety." The Lord replied, "By your grace and the mercy of your lotus feet, there is no one in Navadip who can defeat me in any argument." The Lord replied, "By your grace and the mercy of your lotus feet, there is no one in Navadip who can defeat me in any argument. Who can refute my arguments and then establish a new and original concept? I will go into the center of town and teach publicly. I would like to see who has the courage to find the faults and mistakes in my commentaries." The teacher Gangadas Pandit was very pleased when Vishwambar offered his obeisances to his master and left. Gangadas Pandit is such a fortunate and elevated personality that the disciple offering obeisances to his feet is none other than the Lord of Saraswati Devi, the goddess of learning. For what more can Gangadas Pandit aspire? His disciple is the most worshipable Lord of the entire universe. Lord Vishwambar walked down the street surrounded by his students, like the shining full moon surrounded by so many stars against a velvet dark firmament. Lord Vishwambar, whose lotus feet are eternally worshipped by Lakshmi Devi within her heart, sat upon the bank of the river Ganga. There he began his explanation and commentaries, establishing, refuting, and then reestablishing different points. The Lord said, in Kali Yuga, the so-called scholar has no idea of conjugation, but receives the title of Bhattacharya. One who has no knowledge of philosophy, he has the audacity to debate. But none of these scholars can ever challenge me. Whatever I establish and whatever I refute, let me see if there is anyone who can dispute that. Like this, the Lord of the universe, Vishwambar, boldly challenged everyone. Who is there that can take up that challenge? The scholars who came to pay their respects to Mother Ganga heard Lord Vishwambar's bold words in fearful silence, their scholarly pride broken to pieces. Was there anyone in Navadip who could challenge Vishwambar in debate? The Lord continued to speak for 4 hours, as if in a trance, explaining and giving commentaries. It was late in the evening, yet the Lord did not stop. Then the Lord visited another gentleman's house, a very pious Brahmin whose name was Ratnagarbhacharya, who was a close acquaintance of Lord Vishwambar's father. Both had been born in the same village. He had 3 sons who were elevated devotees of the Lord, full of the spiritual mellows. They were like the bees which gather nectarian pollen from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Their names were Krishnananda, Jiva, and Yadunath Kavichandra. Ratnagarbhacharya was a great devotee of the Lord and was very fond of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was at that time reading from the Bhagavatam with great respect and affection. He read the wives of the Yagya Brahmins, saw a beautiful young boy. His complexion was darkish. He wore a golden yellow cloth. He was nicely decorated with flower garlands around his neck. A peacock feather slanted sideways out of his crown, where precious jewels and metals glistened brightly like stars. He was like his friends. He was with his friends, and with his left hand, he stood leaning against the shoulders of a dear friend. With his right hand, he twirled a beautiful lotus flower. His ears were decorated with earrings in the shape of the lotus flowers. His cheeks carried decorative designs of sandalwood paste, and his sweet smile played on his lotus-like mouth. Spoken with great devotion, these words of the Srimad Bhagavatam entered the ears of Lord Vishwambar. As soon as he heard these words, the devotion of the speaker affected the Lord, and he fell down unconscious, overcome with loving spiritual ecstasy. All the students were amazed at the sight. After remaining in a trance for a while, the Lord regained his external consciousness. When he was about to speak, the Lord said to Ratnagarbhacharya, "Go on, go on." He rolled on the ground in ecstasy. The Lord continued to urge him on, saying, "Go on, go on." The Brahmin continued to read, and everyone floated on the nectarian ocean of love of Krishna. Unrestrained tears from the Lord's eyes flooded the entire world. All the ecstatic symptoms like shivering, horripilation, and crying manifested in the Lord's person. The Brahmin was extremely happy, and he continued to read the shlokas with great inspiration. The Lord was very satisfied with the Brahmin's devotion, and he embraced him warmly. Upon being touched, Ratnagarbhacharya experienced immense bliss. He fell down, and in tears of love, held the Lord's lotus feet. From that moment on, he became entrapped by love of Lord Chaitanya. He continuously read the shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Lord responded, roaring loudly, "Go on, go on." The people were completely amazed at this sight, and they realized that something extraordinary was taking place. Then Gadadhar Pandit intervened and told the Acharya, "Do not read any further." Ratnagarbha stopped reading, and they all sat down surrounding the Lord. When external consciousness returned to the Lord, he inquired, "Tell me what happened. Did I act very restlessly?" The students replied, What activity do we have to be able to explain your activities? The students replied, "What ability do we have to be able to explain your activities? All we know is that you are very fortunate." The Lord's friends and relatives discouraged them and said, "Do not praise him like this." The Lord now withdrew his emotions within himself and accompanied all the students to the bank of the Ganga. The Lord sprinkled some water upon his head, offered his obeisances to the Ganga, and sat down upon her bank. Nimai Pandit, the son of Sachimata, sat with all the students discussing topics about Krishna, just as Lord Krishna had sat with all the young damsels of Vrindaban upon the banks of the Jamuna. He spent some time with the boys, and then everyone returned to their respective homes. The Lord returned to his home, and after his meal, lay down to rest, just as Mahavishnu lies down in Yoga Nidra, mystic slumber. After a good night's sleep, the students returned early in the morning with their books to see the Lord. The Lord went for his daily ablutions to the Ganga. Upon returning, he sat down with his students and began explaining and commenting on the different aspects of grammar. However, all of his explanations and commentaries revolved around one subject only, Krishna, and the process of devotional service to the Lord. The students inquired, "What is the definition of dhatu, verbal roots?" The Lord replied, "They are the energy of Lord Krishna. My dear students, I will now explain the aphorisms on verbal roots. Let me see who can refute my explanations. There have been many kings with beautiful bodies decorated with golden ornaments, flower garlands, and sandalwood paste. People say that they are representatives of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and their words are the words of Yamaraj, the presiding demigod of religious principles. Let me explain to you what happens when Dhatu, life, leaves their body. Where go the physical beauty, decorations, and power of these kings? Some of their kingly bodies are turned into ashes, and others are buried beneath the earth. Lord Krishna is present within everybody in the form of his energy, Dhatu. Living entities are attracted to and love this life energy. In this way, they offer their devotion to him. All other so-called scholars and teachers are very confused. They do not understand the real meaning of Dhatu, verbal roots. So all of you now listen attentively. The kingly person who was for so long worshipped and respected becomes contaminated as soon as life leaves him. And if his body is touched, one must take a bath. The son who spent happy hours upon the lap of his father must touch fire to the dead father's mouth and burn his body to ashes. Therefore, the definition of Dhatu, essential substance, is the energy of Lord Krishna that is loved by everyone. Now I want to see if there is anyone capable of refuting this explanation. The essential energy of Krishna is pure, transcendental, and worshipable. Thus, one should develop unflinching faith and devotion to Lord Krishna. Just chant Krishna's names, worship his lotus feet, and hear only the names of Lord Krishna. Spend all of your time meditating upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Just take shelter of the lotus feet of the son of Nandamarj. For if one simply worships the lotus feet with a little water, grass, or leaf, then the Lord of Death can never approach. Just worship he who has, by killing Agasura, Bakasura, and Putana, given them liberation. Ajamil, at this point of death, cried out his son's name, Narayan. Even after a sinful life, by worshiping the Lord's lotus feet and remembering the Lord, he gave up attachment for his son and went to the spiritual sky, the Vaikuntha planets. Simply take shelter of the supreme lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Shiva and Lakshmi Devi are always desirous of worshiping those lotus feet. In humility, Lord Ananta Sesha eternally glorifies the wonderful mercy of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. As long as there is life within the body and strength in the limbs and mind, take shelter of devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, and Krishna is your very life and soul. Simply embrace his lotus feet and offer your mind, words, and body completely unto him. Lord Vishwambar, who is the Supreme Personality of God as Sri Krishna, explained the devotional mood of servitorship to himself. He continued for hours, unaware that it was already past noon, with undivided attention, as if hypnotized, the students listened. No one wished to disturb or make contradictory remarks. One must understand that these students were not ordinary mortals. They were all servants of Lord Krishna. Otherwise, how could they be personally taught by the Supreme Lord Krishna? After a while, Lord Vishwambar came out from this trance and looked at everyone's face, feeling a little ashamed and shy. He asked, "How were my explanations upon verbal roots?" The students replied, "You have revealed the truth to us. Your explanations upon the word meanings are impossible to be refuted or contradicted by anyone. All of your explanations are eternal truths. The references we use for our ordinary understanding may comply with the present-day grammatical concepts of the so-called scholars, but we can now understand that these are not the proper meanings." The Lord said, can any of you explain how my disorder of the life airs is influencing my mind? Instead of explaining the nature of verb roots, I do not know who or what I am talking about. The students replied, you have always described the glories of the holy name of Krishna. All of your commentaries, definitions, and purports describe Lord Krishna and his transcendental potencies. Who can understand such esoteric subject matters? The transformations that we see come over you as soon as you hear the transcendental subject matters of Krishna Lila and Krishna's holy names are so wonderful that we cannot think of you as an ordinary personality. The Lord inquired, what sort of transformations have you seen in me? The students replied, they were marvelous different emotions played upon you, creating shivering and a great flow of tears. Your entire body was covered with horripilation, a standing of the hairs on end. We have never seen anything like this before. Yesterday, we accompanied you to the bank of the Ganga, where you explained to us from our books. In one of the nearby houses, a Brahmin was reciting a shloka, and suddenly you fell down unconscious, as if the life air had left your body. We were bewildered and amazed. When you came out of your trance, unrestricted tears poured from your eyes in streams like the flowing of the Ganga. Finally, you began shivering so uncontrollably that even 1,000 men could not have held you still. Horripilation covered you from head to toe, and you perspired profusely. You lay upon the ground as if a golden statue was in the dust. Everyone present marveled at you. Some said that you were the Supreme Lord Narayan. Others suggested that you were Srila Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami, Narad Muni, or even Prahlad Maharaj, and that you were certainly equal to them in receiving the Supreme Lord's mercy. All of us got together and tightly held you down, and gradually your external consciousness returned. You were unaware of what we have just described. We wish to tell you something more. Please listen to us attentively. For the last 10 days, all of your explanations upon word meanings and aphorisms have described the process of devotional service to Lord Krishna and the glories of the holy name of Krishna. Therefore, for the last 10 days, we have not been able to follow the lessons in the books. We were a little fearful to tell you this. Your profound erudition can explain unlimited meanings for words. It is truly amazing. No one can equal that feat. The Lord replied, 10 days without studies. Was it not your duty to tell me about this sooner? The students replied, your explanations were very correct. Lord Krishna is certainly the eternal truth. This is the verdict of all the scriptures. Your explanations on the supreme absolute truth is absolute education and is the essence of all scriptures. But we were unable to understand them due to our own faults and limited intelligence. These words greatly pleased the Lord. He gently blessed them and said, my dear students, you have truly spoken the truth. My words are not meant for others. I always speak in this way because I am constantly seeing a little boy with a blackish blue glowing complexion playing the flute. All I hear is the name of Krishna, and everywhere I behold the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindaban. Therefore I humbly apologize to all of you, for I shall not teach anymore. I give you complete freedom to go to anyone that you wish and study under him. To tell you the truth, I cannot speak about anything other than Lord Krishna. His name and his pastimes. To tell you the truth, I cannot speak about anything other than Lord Krishna, his name and his pastimes. Therefore, it will not be possible for me to teach you anymore in this condition. Lord Vishwambara then tied his books together and handed them to the students with tears in his eyes. The students then spoke up. We have also decided, following your desire, to give up our studies. Once we have studied under you, how can we find another teacher with the ability to explain and teach the way you do? The thought of separation from their teacher was too heavy a burden for the students to bear, and they began to lament. They said, "Those explanations that we have heard from you, we want to treasure in our hearts birth after birth for our meditation. What is the use of studying further, and to whom would we go? All that we have learned from you is more than sufficient for us." Overcome with emotion, with folded hands, they prayed to the Lord and tied up their books. The students were now extremely happy, and they jubilantly shouted Lord Hari's name. Lord Vishwambar embraced the students and began to weep. Everyone was drowned in waves of joy, their voices choked with ecstatic bliss. The son of Mother Sachi, Sri Chaitanya, then blessed them, saying, "If I ever become a true servant of Sri Krishna, then may all your desires be fulfilled. All of you, please take shelter of Lord Krishna and always chant Lord Krishna's holy name. Try to hear Krishna's name always, and may Krishna become your most precious object, your very life and soul. Whatever you have studied so far, that is enough. There is no need to study any further. Now all of you get together and chant Lord Krishna's name in one place. By Krishna's mercy, may the purport of all the scriptures manifest within you. All of you are my dearmost friends, birth after birth." The words of the Lord were like nectar in the students' ears, and they became extremely happy. I offer my obeisances unto the feet of all such students who are so elevated and fortunate to become the direct disciples of the Supreme Lord Sri Vishwambar. All of them are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord Krishna. How could it be any other way? Krishna himself personally taught them. One is freed from material bondage just by seeing that person who has seen these wonderful scholarly pastimes of the Supreme Lord. What a miserable birth I have taken that I was excluded from seeing such transcendental pastimes and sights of the Lord. O Lord, I pray for your mercy that these pastimes of you in the mood of a scholar may remain eternally within my heart. The Lord of Vaikuntha appeared in Nadia to teach in the mood of a scholar. The signs of his appearance are still visible now. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are eternal and unlimited, without beginning or end. The scriptures describe his eternal pastimes as unmanifest and manifest. The Lord was now beginning his pastime of the congregational chanting of the holy name, which is the ultimate of all learning and education. Fearing separation, the Lord's students became emotional and wept. The Lord was much moved, and he spoke comforting words to them. Now you can fulfill the purpose of your studies by chanting and singing the holy name of Krishna. The students inquired, "O Lord, we do not know how to perform this Sankirtan. Kindly teach us." The Lord began singing, "Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana." Lord Vishwambar then demonstrated to his students as he clapped his hands and led the students in a beautiful kirtan. Sri Vishwambar is the Lord and propagator of the kirtan of the holy name of Krishna, and he now sang the Lord's holy name surrounded by his students. He was in an ecstatic trance, tasting the intoxicating nectar of his own name, rolling upon the ground, oblivious to everything around him. He repeated, sing on, and kept falling to the ground. The earth seemed to split open each time he crashed to the ground. The residents of Navadip, hearing the great commotion coming from the Lord's house, rushed to the spot. Also, when the neighboring Vaishnavas heard the loud kirtan, they quickly came to Lord Chaitanya's house. The Vaishnavas saw the Lord's ecstatic trance, and they marveled deep within themselves. Feeling great happiness, they thought, at long last, kirtan has made an appearance in Navadip, in the entire universe. Where is there the practice and propagation of such a rare devotional service? Such devotional ecstasy is the perfection of sight. This very same Vishvambar has been the epitome of arrogance, but now even Narad Muni and other great devotees can hardly achieve the devotional ecstasy that he spontaneously manifests. If such a degree of devotion is exhibited by such a once arrogant personality, we do not understand the will of Lord Krishna and what the future will bring. Sometime later, Lord Vishvambar came out of his ecstatic trance and simply repeated, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Although external consciousness had returned, the Lord spoke nothing about this mundane world. He just embraced all the Vaishnavas and cried. Finding the Lord agitated by ecstatic emotions, the Vaishnavas pacified the Lord. Feeling great joy, they then left the Lord's house. Affected by the Lord's Krishna prema, many of the Lord's students took to the path of renunciation, cultivating detachment from material existence and attachment to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Gloriously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had initiated the congregational chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna as the essence of perfection. Manifesting himself, the Supreme Lord had commenced to freely and profusely distribute the nectar of his own holy name, thus washing away all of the sufferings of all the Vaishnava devotees. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. Who is there? Okay. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda Prabhu are my life and soul. I, Vrindaban Das, humbly offer this song at their lotus feet. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaite Vignana Shabista Puran Jaite Vignana Shabista Puran H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas Tasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Tasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Kadir Chanana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame janame more abhilash. Echai gosai jabe braje koilabas. Echai gosai jabe braje koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjayaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjayaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodar. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodar. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. 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 Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramajakacharya Ashta Tara Sadashi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Charyash Datara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sananta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Rupanu Guru Marga ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Bhagawat ki jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu ki jai. Vishwavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Dham Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Koladvip ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Shri Vrindaban Dham ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan, Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo ki jai, Shri Purushottam Madam ki jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Jo ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya, Shri Nrsingadev ki jai. Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.